Hi, I'm Shelley Maurer,
And I'm Cher Emmerich. Welcome to Life Lessons from Pickleball,
where we engage with pickleball players from around the world about life on and off the court.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone, to Life Lessons from Pickleball. We are so lucky to have with us today Senior Pickleball Pro Tony Roig. Tony, you are the host of a very popular podcast, which we love as well, Pickleball Therapy, dedicated to helping us achieve our pickleball goals.
You are also co-founder and director of player development at Better Pickleball and host the YouTube channel Into Pickle.
In addition to all of that, you're a full-time pickleball coach and the author of Play Pickleball, a beginner's guide. Oh my gosh, Tony, you are an absolute wealth of pickleball knowledge. But let's start with what you were doing before pickleball, and then how did you learn about the game?
Sure. I'll take it from a player perspective. First, so I was a tennis player. I played tennis since I was a child, and I didn't play competitively in college or anything like that, but I played a little intramurals, and I dropped the game for a number of years. My brother moved into town. I started playing to hang out with my brother. I can't remember the exact year, but it was many, many years ago. And we played USTA league play, and we went to nationals one year. And, I played a lot of tennis. And one Sat, I think it was actually, no, my wife reminded me, it was actually Martin Luther King Day. So it was a Monday. We got invited by our friend Charlotte to go play this thing. And, and they played it at the tennis club here, a tennis center, which is pretty well known. And I'm like, sure, we'll go bat the ball around a little bit. We'll go have some lunch. It'll be a nice day. And so went out there, and I always like to tell this part of the story because I think it's important to interact with the sport in a way that's going to interest you. I was lucky that day because there was a gentleman named Steve Tallner who was one of the pros at that facility, tennis pros, but he's also the pickleball pro. And he put a whooping on me on the pickleball court. And I was like, and I'm sitting there going, I was like I'm the 4-5 tennis player. And I'm sitting there going like, what is happening here? This is stupid. I'm hitting this stupid little ball in this stupid little court and getting my ass kicked. So, but as a reasonably decent tennis player, that's what I needed to interest me. Then after that, I said, there's a little more to this. So then I started down the path of exploring it. I started going to back in the day here in Tampa, this is in 2015, you had to play mostly indoors on gym floors. So it was gym floors, temp nets, just going out there and doing my thing. And I fell in love with it. And then my friend Tom and I went to play in the 2016 US Open, which was the first year of the US Open. And
Pickleball.
They actually had a pickleball US Open. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the one down in Naples. And it was the first year of it. And they actually had an open category, a true open category. So Tom played, I think, semi-professional golf. He's a really good golfer. So he's like, let's just play open. And I'm like, I'm not even sure we were like decent 4-0s at the time. it was like, okay. So we signed up for pro or open. And it was a really good format because you played on Friday and you played, basically it was like a play-in. So you played on Friday and whoever won that match went into the open division. And if you lost a match, you got dropped to 5.0. And so we got there and we played. One of the names you may recognize, Wes Gabrielson. The other one's Dan Moore, who's got more son. And at that time, they were like top 5 probably. So we played them on court 10 in Naples. We got killed like 11-3, 11-2 or something like that. But it was so eye-opening. It was like, oh, there's so much more to this sport. So, I always thank my losses actually more than my wins in my journey, because they're the ones that propelled me forward to continue just learning this sport. So that's how I got into pickleball.
That's fantastic. And you're very mind oriented. Even your pickleball therapy podcast is about mindset, right? And I love the psychological perspective. And it sounds like that's kind of what hooked you too when you first got introduced.
Well, that's a great, I hadn't thought about that. I don't know that it's interesting. I'm not, maybe, but I will tell you this.
Pushing back, are you?
What's that?
Pushing back.
No, well, it's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Because I did play tennis competitively, so I think I kind of fell into the mental side of pickleball more intentionally later when I started coaching. And I started the podcast. Like if you go back and listen to episode 1 or 2 of the podcast, I say basically, this is my podcast. Like the podcast is for me. I'm talking to me about fixing me because I'm paddle chucker, racket breaker in tennis. I had all those tendencies. And so
Wow.
the Tony of today is very different than the Tony of 6 years ago or 8 years ago or anything like that. And so it's been my journey, and I'm happy to share the journey with whoever wants to join me on that journey. So Pickleball Therapy actually started as it's my podcast for me. And I basically say, I'm like, I hope you can listen, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to do the podcast. I'll be here. So join me if you want to. So anyway.
That's fantastic.
Yes. So tell us about Better Pickleball.
Sure. I'll tell you the story how it originated, because it'll tell you kind of where the psychology that comes into our philosophy. So I started the Into Pickle channel in 2018, and I have to thank my wife for pushing me in this direction. We were reverse snowbirds. So we live here in Tampa, but we were going north during the summers in an RV. So we had an RV and we were just going north, and we worked remote.
Perfect.
So, so we're somewhere up in the Northeast, and my wife says, why don't you do something with this pickleball stuff you keep cause I'm always helping players as I go out there, and I wasn't coaching. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. So I looked up the IPTPA, which is the original certification agency in pickleball, or, for coaching. And they had something happening in, I think it was Cape Cod. So we redirected our trip, we canceled whatever. And then we circulated there. I got certified there. And then the first videos that I did on YouTube and Into Pickle were filmed in Burlington, Vermont. And there were 2 pickleball courts next to the RV place we were staying at, right? Public. So I went there, and it's like, I don't even have a microphone. So you can't even hardly hear me, because the camera's all the way over there, and I'm talking into it with wind and everything. It is what it is, So, launched the channel in 2018. That's the Into Pickle channel. And then fast forward to COVID happens. And at that time, it was my channel. There was Better Pickleball, which is CJ Johnson's channel, my now business partner and co-head coach. Nicole Havlicek with Primetime Pickleball was big. Mark Rennison with Third Shot Sports. Barrett Kinchela with The Kitchen. Those were the big players in the space. And Pickleball channel had some stuff going on too. But anyway, so we're doing our thing, and COVID hits. CJ has the most brilliant idea when COVID hit, which is, let's do a summit. Let's do something. She's doing a summit because I didn't know her. So she reaches out and says, I'm doing the summit. And, at the time, this is right at the beginning of COVID. Everybody thinks we're off court for 2 months or something, 2 months, 3 months, and we'll be back in normal. Right. And so she wanted to get it done quickly, right, during that time when everybody's off court. So she put it together. I was on it. Barrett was on it. I think Nicole was on it, and I helped moderate some stuff behind the scenes. And it was a nice it was a small event, but very nice. And so afterward in the summer, I started thinking to myself, I'm pretty good at the coaching. I'm pretty good at the thinking about the game. I'm not very good at the back end stuff, like emails and all that kind of stuff. And she's very good at the front of the office, if you will, and very good at the back of the office. So I reached out to her, and I think it was August or something. And I was like, I'll tell you the way she explains it, I think it makes more sense. She says, I called her for a business date, let's collaborate or something, And then she was like, no, let's go ahead and get married business wise. And so the week after, we had a new thing, and we started that. And then that year in November, we launched the first serious online training platform. It was called VI Pickleball at the time. And now that's what we call the pickleball system. And then Better Pickleball is a coaching platform. And our mission is to help pickleball players become stronger. So empowering pickleball players through knowledge, right? Through coaching, through transmitting knowledge to them. And we do it in various different formats. So that's Better Pickleball.
So for those who are not familiar, how do you do that? Do you have people on the court and you're coaching them remotely as well, or is it just talking? So share with the audience.
It's a great question. And actually, let me address it this way, because I think it's an interesting way of looking at it. So when we do our pickleball system class openings, we do these things, they're called launches, right? But basically webinars, and then you come into the webinar, you get to hear something about the most important shot in pickleball, or gifted points, or something interesting about pickleball. And then you make a decision. I like these coaches. They make sense. We explain the whys of things. That's really important to us. And then you decide, I like these folks. This sounds interesting. I'm going to join their course. Great. So we'll do a 3-day version of that, right? So you'll come in, and you have spent 3 days with us, call it an hour and a half each day, roughly an hour and a half. And at the end, and this is a very natural question, so I'm not trying to be critical of the asker, but here's the question that gets asked a lot of times. can I really learn pickleball online? And so my response is, well, you're still with us, and everything we've been doing is online. And frankly, like look at YouTube videos, right? I mean, it's 200,000 views, 150,000. I got news for everybody. YouTube's online. So there you can learn a ton of pickleball through the online program. Now, our program is very different than YouTube because it's all step by step and it's all explained to you. And here's the thing: most adults, most anybody can like do the thing. You just need to know what to do. So we tell you this is what to do, and not just what to do, but these are like the really important things. So we prioritize it for you. So it's like, let's start here and then here and then here and then here. And we tell you, listen, if you go to step 4 before you do steps 1 through 3, it's not going to work because you need steps 1 through 3 to get to 4. And I'll tell you an interesting sort of side story. I just finished producing a video. We're doing some work with the PPA, analyzing some pro matches and things like that. And they're being published on their channel, which is fantastic. But I just analyzed one of the, it's the top women's doubles, right? So it's Annalie and Catherine against Anna and Rachel in the Masters finals. And when I'm what I do is I'll watch the video, not cold, but I'll watch a video kind of like, let me see what I see, right? Let me go in there without prejudging what I'm going to look for, right? There are some things that I already know are tendencies of both teams, but still I want to see what happens. So I'm watching that match. And in that match, Annalie and Catherine won the first 2 games. I think it was like 5-4, 5-6. And then Anna and Rachel win game 3, 11-5. And in game 4, they're up 5-0. So
who's up 5-0?
Anna and Rachel are up 5-0. So they've won game 3 and they're up 5-0 in game 4. So it looks like things are good, right? For Anna and Rachel, that is.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like the wheels come off, and I'll tell you what happened in a second. Then it's 5-4. And then they take a timeout, they regroup, they get up 10-5. The wheels come off again, and they lose 12-10. Now, why did the wheels come off? The wheels came off based on, and this is a word, I hardly ever use this word in these public kind of, I use it a ton when I'm doing like coach, when you're coaching with me, I'll use a term a lot, but it's fundamentals. Because the minute I say this word, players go, oh, that's beginner stuff. I don't need that stuff. And I'm like, but these are the best players on the planet. And I'm talking about missed returns of serve, missed 4 shots, not getting to the line on the 4th. How are you going to win like that? And these are the best players doing it. So if you're a 3-5, I guarantee you're doing it too. So even if you're a 4-5, you're doing it too. So
that's very cool. Very cool.
I don't know if I answered the question, but I went with
no,
it.
No, you did. Direction. You did. And I'm excited. Very cool.
That's
and
really
the other
cool.
thing I can tell you is this. Let me, you asked a question about online. So let me just, what I can tell you is this. I believe the online works because I've been doing it. I've been doing it since before CJ and I got together. I did some of it in Topeka with very small groups, but they were they were repeat students. They kept coming back and they would learn. And I always believed in the online training. And I always tell CJ, so always tell CJ this. I'm like, I am surprised at how well we call it the pickleball system because it is a system, how well our system actually works. It actually surprises me. It surprised me, not anymore, but I expected it to work at level whatever, right? And it's well exceeded that. And the reason I can tell you that is because of the feedback from our players. And our players, it's not just like I feel better. It's like they'll tell us, I've been playing with so-and-so for like 2 years or something, right? And then the last 6 months, they can't believe who I am anymore because now and also it's not just that they're playing better, it's up here in the noggin. Like they understand things better. And so, now they're actually asking questions that I'm like, oh, okay, you're in a different place right now because you're asking me questions that are like, you're like a PhD student now asking me PhD questions and you're not asking me like, sophomore questions anymore, which is fine to ask sophomore questions. But the idea is not to ask sophomore questions for 10 years, to ask sophomore questions for like a couple of years and then move on to junior questions. I hope so. Anyway, if you want to. So anyway.
Excellent. So, go ahead, Shell.
No, I was just going to say, today I was listening to one of your Into Pickles, and it was the 5 top tips for pickleball. And the first one was so good, I just stopped and didn't even listen to the other 4 because I had to work on the first one. And the first one was, my body needs to follow the ball.
Yeah.
Don't just run straight up to the line. Oh, I'm supposed to run. If I hit a diagonal, I'm supposed to run diagonal. Yeah. That was just great. And I used it today when I played, and it made a big difference.
See?
I know. So I mean, that's just one basic tip.
And I'm going to give you credit on that, Shelley, because you did the right thing. And I think that's one of the dangers of the YouTube ecosystem is, we use it because that's how are we going to meet players we haven't met before, right? So we are on there, we do our thing on YouTube. We try and be more discerning with the information we provide, because nowadays you get there were two different content creators. I don't remember who they were, and I'm not trying to, cast shade at them, but two different content creators used the heading, "This shot works against 99% of players." And I saw that and I'm just like, or everybody saying you can get to 5.0 with this tip, and which is just nonsense. It's just, but it gets clicks, I'm not going to say that though. So I'm never going to get $200,000 views in a week on a video, because I'm not going to say silly things, like the dink is dead or stuff like that. That's just, it's not true. And then what happens is, if most players, and again, not a criticism of the players, why would they be able to discern the difference? They can't look at that and go oh, that's BS. I see what they're just clickbaiting me. They see it, they go, and then they go, okay, I got to go hard. And a lot of players are out there thinking they got to go hard all the time. And it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Yep. In fact, we have a video coming out into Pickle probably in I don't know the exact schedule, but in a couple of weeks or something, that we're fighting back against that by showing pro play, by showing the pros and how the pros use the soft game. And, and also some other reasons we explain in there, like cloning and how the game is built and stuff like that. But the more you understand those things about how the framework of the game, that's what we call it, the more you're able to say, no, come on, that doesn't make sense. This is pickleball. Pickleball is not the same as tennis. It's a different sport, Anyway.
Yeah.
I wish most guys could understand that, because when you go to open play and stuff, boy, they just want to slam that ball.
I'm going to give you, what the best thing you can do against him?
Reset.
No.
What? All
right, let's work through this. You want to work through it? Can we work through it on the podcast? Okay, you tell me.
Let's do it.
You tell me when I'm going too far. Okay. All right, so let's assume the problem with the reset is it's a fine shot, but what's your exit strategy? Because if you reset a banger shot, what's the banger going to do next?
Bang it.
And then you reset it. What they're going to do next?
Bang it.
Bang it.
And you see what I'm saying? So it's you're in an endless loop. So you got to get out of it. The best way to get out of the loop, don't hit the ball.
Don't hit the ball.
Because it's going to go out.
Likely. I can't guarantee it. Let the ball go out. Let the ball go. Give it a chance to go out. Because most bangers at most levels don't have the control to hit the ball in. In fact, even at the higher levels, I watch pros play, right? I did some work with Dylan and I've been at the pro matches live with him and stuff like that. I'm watching and I'm like, these balls are all going out and they're hitting him, even at the pro level. If you want to piss a banger off, let their ball go. They think it's disrespectful or something. And then the other thing we tell our campers who's kind of messing around a little bit is I go so I'm looking into the camera, right? Directly in the camera, and that's the banger. And so they bang it, and I'm going to pick on my friend Phil. So I'm going to use Phil because Phil's a banger. So I'll be like, I'll get out of the way and I'll look at Phil. I'll be like, Phil, did you, I didn't see it. Did you see it? Was it in? Did it land in, Phil? I couldn't turn in time. I trust you. The ball's going to be 4 feet out. Was he going to call it in?
I'll do that.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I'm going to remember that one.
That's your best defense against bangers. If you hit, and one thing to understand is, and this is I'm going to give you guys so part of it's the out ball, but let me tell you a reason why, because it makes it more impactful. Think of the size of a pickleball court relative to the size of a tennis court. About half. Okay. In terms of the length, right? Or the depth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Think of the height of the net. It's almost the same. It's 2-inch difference. So you have a net that is disproportionately high, and disproportionately in terms of what's going to happen to the ball landing in relative to the depth of the court. So why not use that to your advantage? And that's framework, right? That's you understanding, wait, I understand how my game is constructed. My game is constructed on a short court with a high net. Let him go, because it's really hard to hit that ball in the court.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. The check is in the mail.
Let him go. But I just don't like the grin on their face if it happens to be in.
But you know what? Here's what you know. You're playing a bigger number. And I'll tell you guys another quick story because it has to do with that. So This is a good friend of mine, Matt. Great two-handed backhand. Beautiful backhand. In fact, some of the other pros back in the day would see Matt's backhand and go I want that backhand because it was so pretty. So we're playing. I can't remember who my partner was, but I know for sure it was Matt and Tom. Tom, the same guy from the Open, because he was razzing me. So Matt gets ready to hit his beautiful backhand. I get out of the way because I'm pretty good at that. Actually, if one thing that upsets me when I play is when I hit out balls. When I hit balls that I think are going out, because I'm like, that means I'm not in the moment. But anyway, so I get out of the way. I let the ball go. Ball lands in. Like barely in, like, like an inch or two in, right in the corner. And so they start razzing me. Oh, let that one go. All that nonsense, right? And I'm like, yep, I'll let it go again next time too. Because here's the thing. The score, 8 us to them. 4 or 5 had already gone out.
Oh my gosh. Odds are good.
I understand that. I understand. Not all of them are. Here's the thing. If you worry about all of them going out, then we refer to it as being the huckleberry. You're the banger's huckleberry, because the banger goes, oh, so-and-so's across the net. I can just beat the crap out of the ball and I don't got to worry about it. Now, if you let the out part of the court come into effect, now there's a cost to doing it. And it might be, let's say it's 80-20. 80-20 you. Let's say it's 65-35 you. Good on you. Because I'm going to give you guys another piece of depth here. Here's the part you're missing when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the ball anyway? So you decide to hit it, right? Because you don't want it to go out. How's that work out?
A lot of times it hits my racket and goes flying.
I'm just saying, you got to think about that. So like a pro player, right? A pro player can hit everything. It's fine because they can handle every single shot. Yeah. They should let him go, but it's not going to be as devastating if they decide to counterpunch it, right? Or something. For most amateur players, pace is a problem. And so the ball comes hard and, okay, so I got to let it land in maybe, but what am I going to do with it anyway?
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Thank you. That's
now we connected with Cher on that one. Connected with Shelly on the net, with Cher on the...
Yeah.
Well, what am I going to do? Might as well just let it go and see what happens. So.
I'm going to try that. That is awesome. Yeah, I'll be playing with a few like that in a few days.
The key there is make sure you get out of the way before they hit it. If you wait till they hit it,
they get the point.
And don't tell. And I don't let players can't tell me they didn't have time to get out of the way. I push back. I'm like, you were too late thinking about it. It's like, what's the banger going to do? Are you waiting to see? Oh, I wonder if they're going to bang it.
No. Oh yeah,
right.
No,
they're going to bang it. So expect to bang it. Get out of the way.
It's what they do.
Right. So the pickleball system is just full of all kinds of tips like this.
The pickle, I push back on a little bit. It's not tips. See, we don't look at it that way. So we look at it as the framework is so important, and it just changes how you interact with stuff. Because once you get like these framework pieces, like you start it's like a puzzle, right? So you start constructing, seeing how it put together. You understand the 2 bounce rule and how it impacts everything that you do in pickleball. And most players don't even think about it. Why would you? I don't violate it. You understand the importance of the non-volley zone, and then you start thinking about it differently and using it differently. You understand the court, right? And the net height versus the out of bounds. And then you start, because here's the thing, every one of us plays pickleball a little bit differently, right? Like your skills, Shelly, your skills, Cher, your background, your reflexes, everything's different. And mine is different, right? So we're not going to all play pickleball the same way, but we're all playing the same game on the same court with the same rules, with the same everything. Ben Johns, Annalie Waters, all of us, we all play the exact same game, right? Yep. The question is, how do we want to interact with the game? How do we want to come up with what works best for us? The most rewarding way to do that is to understand the framework first. So like the pickleball system is built on, we call it the FOSS approach, which we developed. So think about it like this. You start off with framework. So that's understanding how the game's constructed. Then from there, you build objectives, right? That's the O. So like, these are my objectives when I'm playing on the return side, on the serve side. And then from there, I gain strategies, or I develop strategies. So what strategy will allow me to accomplish my objective? And then the very last one is my shot. What shot do I need to hit to accomplish my strategy? Most pickleball players work bottom up, which is not as satisfying. That's the YouTube approach, right? Let me find a shot. Let me find a thing, right? And so I have all these different shots in my mind or strategies in my mind, but I don't understand how they work together. And so I can't then, like, as soon as you throw me a little bit of a wrench or a curveball, I'm toast because I don't understand how it all works. Like we even explain how the shots work so that you basically understand, like when you miss a shot, which 100% you're going to miss a shot, you understand you can work backward and go, I missed the shot because of this or that. And then you can work back through there. This is the likely cause. Okay. And now you can fix it. Otherwise you're just like, okay, I missed the shot. I don't know what to do about it. So I think
Right.
how much more powerful it is for you as a player to be able to have that level of understanding. And listen, we just met, right? But I got to believe that, you guys are running a podcast. You guys have led successful lives. You guys are capable human beings, right? So, but I'm just saying, why can't you guys have the
Generally
same
speaking.
knowledge? Well, why can't you guys have the same knowledge that I do about pickleball? Playing
Ah,
pickleball, not otherwise. But I'm just, what I mean. And so that's
yes.
our mission, our goal is to try and transfer knowledge as much as we can, and we're happy to do that in whatever form. But that's how the system is built. It's to deliver that kind of knowledge to you, not just like, okay, here's a tip to do this, here's a tip to do that. That's the difference.
Brilliant.
So,
Very comprehensive. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, now in all this experience you've had
mm-hmm.
on and off the court, what are some of the life lessons that you can share?
Well, the biggest one is probably just the pickleball therapy journey. I went from, I played tennis my whole life, never thought about the mental side of anything. I never read The Inner Game of Tennis, never read any of those books. A book that really impacted me was Peter Scales' book. And, if anybody, I'll give you the name of it, and if you guys want to link to it, that's fine too. But we have a link at betterpickleball.com under resources. So all these, like, what book did Tony say? It's all on there. But basically, he wrote a book called Mental and Emotional Training for Tennis. But you can forget about the tennis thing because it's so applicable. And then his tenet is compete, learn, honor. And it just really changed.
What?
Compete, learn, honor. And it's basically
Honor.
his philosophy is and he is a psychologist. I'm not. He is a psychologist, and he's also a sports coach. He coaches tennis. He does coach pickleball now, but when he wrote the book, he was coaching tennis. And anyway, so he gives you a different way of thinking about your interaction with the sport that really opens up your eyes to a different perspective. So anyway, so then that journey, right, has led me to where basically I've been hosting the podcast, weekly, faithfully weekly for like 4 years plus. We have two books actually in process, which have to do with the mental side of the game. Cool. It's really forced me to think differently about sports in general. Like I'm working on this idea of I think we're weighting first place too much in our thinking. And this is not, let's go to participation trophies. So not everybody gets a trophy, but it is an idea that, like, let's celebrate all of this other work that's been done, and not just the one team or the one person, player, or whatever that ends up on the podium.
Nice.
And the closest concept is that bowl of ice cream concept that we developed at Pickleball Therapy, which is the idea that every time you play pickleball, you get a bowl of ice cream, even if you lose all your games. The reason is you're freaking playing pickleball, right? So let's start from there, right? You're out there playing the sport that you love. So nothing can take that away from you. So that's your baseline. You can't go under that. And it's your favorite ice cream. It's a full bowl. If you win, though, but we want to understand also that our psychology is, if we win, we feel better. Okay, then add sprinkles to the ice cream. Throw some whipped cream on top. Throw some fudge. Throw some nuts. So you can differentiate, but don't go below a bowl of ice cream. And I'll tell you guys an interesting story. I had a conversation at Nationals with a pro player. I won't share her name because I hadn't asked for permission, but she's a very good player. And I just happened to see her sitting like next to the courts, and she looked kind of dejected. So I went up to her and I said, "Hey," and I didn't know her. I said, "Nice to meet you. I really am. I love the way you play." She plays a very good, fundamentally sound game, right, with very little paddle movement. So I told her, I use you as an example for my students, blah, 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 blah. And she seemed kind of down. So I was like, do you mind if I ask you? I mean, you seem like she was, yeah, I didn't play well today, whatever. And I said, can I throw something out there for you? And so she kind of played along a little bit. And I was like, let's take a moment here, because you're at Nationals playing pickleball. You're a top 15, 20 female player in the world. That's pretty cool. It seems pretty good to me. So then I told her about the bowl of ice cream. But what's interesting is she pushed back. And this is very common. I've had players do this where they push back and they say, well, maybe I got like a spoonful or something. And I'm just like, why? But why? We're so hard on ourselves unless we have the W. And we could spend 3 hours talking about win-loss. But anyways, that wasn't the question. So I would say the pickleball therapy has been a big life lesson for me. And then the other thing I think for me has been, that's really impacted me and it makes me very passionate about the work that we do, is seeing the impact that pickleball has on players' lives, well beyond the fence, well beyond the court. You know what I mean? I mean, in terms of social life, I mean, just that's so rewarding to me, you know, because I grew up playing sports. So to me, it you know, I mean, it's been very impactful in my life. It's changed my life, but it hasn't had the impact in my life in terms of life changing for me as it has for like some of our students who I know who didn't play any sports at all in their entire life, you know, and they're 60 and they're picking up a paddle for the first time and they're like, wow. And so they're discovering this whole other side of themselves. And I'll share with you guys a quick side story. And she doesn't mind me sharing this because she's open about it, but they're open about this idea. But one of our students named Lynn, who related to us, she similar thing. She doesn't really have like a sports background and she's playing pickleball. And this comes from my co-head coach, CJ Johnson. She's always been really adamant about, or she stressed initially that we are, if you play pickleball multiple days a week, you listen to podcasts like this, you're an athlete. And it's really important to use that terminology. And that terminology is, it's not just a word, because that terminology then changes how you view yourself relative to everything, but relative to the sport. And so for Lynn, for instance, it totally changed. Like she was like, oh shit, I'm an athlete, get out of here. You know, and then it changed how, but it's interesting, right? It's like, it seems like a little thing, right? But it can be very impactful. So anyway, so that's the other thing I would share.
I love that. Oh my gosh. We could talk with you for 3 hours. We even said that before we got started. It's like, Tony, you've got so much, but how can people find you and what is coming up for you?
So the easiest way is betterpickleball.com. We have everything's on that website, our podcast, the YouTube channels, we have some really nice guides you can get. We have a lot of free resources and we have some non-free resources because this is what we do for a living. Our next event is actually a super interesting event. We're doing it. We're the hosts of the Pickleball Summit every year. So we decided this year we're going to do an extra event called the State of Play. And what we're doing is we're basically going to talk about what's going on in pickleball now, because there's so much noise out there and so much, you know, you got to do modern pickleball, you got to hit hard, you got to get a 2-handed backhand, you got to do all these things. So in the State of Play, we're going to address a lot of the trends that we're seeing out there, and let's decide, is it like, should you follow it or not follow it? So the State of Play, it's a free event, right? Because we thought it was super important, but you do need to get a ticket because there's only so many seats in these rooms. It's online, so you can attend from anywhere. So if you go to betterpickleball.com, there's a button at the top. You can register for that. And then in March, we have our next system class starting. That's the class I mentioned earlier, the big class. And we start the classes like that. And then we basically, CJ and I coach you for the first 90 days. You get coaching calls with us. And then after that, it goes like quarterly coaching calls. But it's super intense, but it has, the results are in, so you can just read the testimonials. I don't need to take your time up with that. So
nobody's going to need to read testimonials after this show. Oh my gosh, we're all sold. Tony, thank you.
Thanks,
thank you so much for being our guest. Very fun. That time just flew, right, Shell?
It sure did.
Can't believe it. And we want to thank you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this show too, for listening and watching, and sign up for Tony's stuff. Oh my God. betterpickleball.com. Go for it. Thank you all. And we look forward to another conversation next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you love our podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a few seconds to follow or subscribe to Life Lessons from Pickleball. This ensures you'll never miss an episode and helps us continue these wonderful conversations.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, go to the show page and tap the follow button in the top right corner. And on YouTube, click the subscribe button under any of the episodes.
Thanks so much. Hope to see you on the court.